The station floated in the darkness like a forgotten monument. Keeper's Reach had been old when most civilizations were still learning to make fire. Now it orbited a dead star waiting, always waiting. Daewon guided his salvage ship toward the docking bay with practiced ease. The controls felt familiar under his hands, smooth from years of use. He had transported strange cargo before, but this job felt different. Archaeological equipment, they said. Scanning devices and translation computers. Nothing dangerous, nothing illegal. Just a simple delivery to some researchers who wanted to study an old door. Still, something about this place made his skin crawl. "We're here," he called over his shoulder. "Try not to break anything when you get up." His sister Jiwoo emerged from the back cabin, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She was younger by 3 years, smarter by several degrees, and never let him forget either fact. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy knot, and she wore the comfortable clothes of someone who valued function over appearance. "The vault?" she asked, peering through the viewport. "The station that houses the vault," Daewon corrected. "We're just dropping off equipment. We'll be gone before dinner." Jiwoo made a sound that suggested she doubted this very much. She had studied xenoarchaeology at the Academy on Mars, back when they both still lived on Earth. Now she traveled with him, claiming his ship was a better classroom than any university. Daewon suspected she just enjoyed not paying rent. The docking process was smooth. Keeper's Reach might be ancient, but its systems still worked perfectly. Better than most modern stations, if Daewon was being honest. The old builders knew their craft. They met the expedition leader in the main corridor. Hana was a Velkhani, her reptilian features sharp and intelligent. Her scales held a deep green color that shifted to blue in certain lights. She had been studying the vault for 20 years, she explained as she led them through the winding passages. 20 years of research, translation, and careful analysis. "The door has never opened," Hana said, her voice carrying the slight hiss common to her species. "Thousands have tried. Kings, emperors, hive mothers, elder minds, all have failed. Why?" Jiwoo asked, her curiosity clearly awakened. "The door requires royal blood." Hana's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of excitement among her kind. "Not just any nobility, true royal lineage. The blood of sovereigns," Daewon snorted. "Sounds like mystical nonsense." "Perhaps," Hana admitted, "but the door's mechanisms are real. Genetic scanners of a design we cannot replicate. Biosensors that can read ancestry back through countless generations. Whatever the builders meant by royal blood, the door knows how to test for it." They reached the vault chamber and Daewon stopped walking. The door was massive. It stretched 30 meters high and just as wide, carved from a single piece of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered its surface, flowing and organic rather than geometric. They seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. The chamber was crowded. Dozens of aliens filled the space, representing species from across known space. Daewon recognized some. The crystalline Luxon, their bodies reflecting rainbow light. The fungal Mycan, connected through invisible spore networks. The towering Chirik, insectoid warriors with 4 arms and compound eyes. One of those Chirik warriors approached them. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his exoskeleton a deep bronze color. Weapons hung from his belt, though he kept his 4 hands carefully away from them. "Humans," the warrior said. His voice came from a speaking chamber in his thorax, buzzing and deep. "I am Taeyang. I provide security for this expedition. Daewon. This is my sister Jiwoo." Daewon tried not to stare at the warrior's mandibles. "We're just here to deliver equipment." "Stay close to me," Taeyang said. "There are many powerful beings here, many who do not trust easily." As if to prove his point, a commotion arose near the door. A Luxon prince was approaching the vault, his crystalline form shimmering with internal light. Attendants surrounded him, chanting in harmonic tones. The prince placed one faceted hand against the door's surface. Everyone watched. The chamber fell silent except for the chanting. The door's symbols began to glow, a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then the glow faded. The symbols went dark. A low tone echoed through the chamber, sad and final. "Failed." The prince stepped back, his light dimming with disappointment. His attendants surrounded him, offering comfort in their musical language. "Next!" called one of the expedition coordinators. A Mycan hive mother approached. Her fungal body was vast, supported by dozens of smaller mushroom folk who moved in perfect synchronization. She was old, they said, old enough to remember when her species first reached the stars. Surely if anyone carried ancient royal blood, it would be her. She pressed a tendril against the scanner. The symbols glowed, and failed. One by one, the dignitaries tried. Energy being Photari nobles who claimed descent from the first minds. Aquatic Delphim, whose royal families had ruled oceanic worlds for millennia. Avian Scree, whose emperor lines stretched back 10,000 years. All failed. Daewon grew bored. He had seen enough failure for one day, and his ship needed maintenance before they left. He whispered to Jiwoo that he would check on their cargo, make sure nothing had shifted during docking. She waved him away, her attention fixed on the proceedings. The cargo hold was quiet and cool. Daewon moved among the crates, checking seals and connections. Everything looked good. He was securing the last restraint when his hand slipped. The metal edge of a cargo clamp caught his finger, slicing deep. "Damn it!" He jerked his hand back, watching blood well up from the cut. It was deeper than he thought. Blood dripped onto the deck plates, bright red against the gray metal. He stuck his finger in his mouth, tasting copper. He would need to clean and bandage this properly. But first he should get back to Jiwoo. She carried a medical kit in her pack, the one she insisted on bringing everywhere despite his protests that they never needed it. When he returned to the vault chamber, another dignitary was failing to open the door. This one was a gaseous being, its form barely contained by an environmental suit. The sad tone echoed again through the space. Jiwoo spotted him and immediately noticed his hand. "What did you do?" "Cut myself on the cargo clamp." "Do you have—" The door hummed. It was a different sound than before. Not the sad tone of rejection, but something deeper, something that resonated in the chest and bones. The symbols on the door burst into light, but not blue. Gold. Brilliant, warm gold that washed over everyone in the chamber. The massive door shuddered. Dust that had accumulated for thousands of years drifted down from the frame. With a sound like thunder held underwater, the door began to open. Everyone froze. Aliens and humans alike stood perfectly still, hardly daring to breathe. The door that had been sealed for 10,000 years was opening. Slowly, impossibly, the massive panel swung inward. Golden light spilled out from the chamber beyond, light that had been locked away since before most of these civilizations existed. Hana turned, her reptilian eyes wide with shock. She looked at the gathered dignitaries, at her fellow researchers, at the expedition team. Her gaze swept across them all and landed on Daewon, more specifically on his bleeding finger. "You," she whispered. Then louder, her voice carrying across the stunned chamber. "It was you!" Daewon looked down at his hand. Blood still dripped from the cut, falling in slow drops to the station floor. Behind him, the ancient door stood open, waiting for someone to enter. And every eye in the chamber was now fixed on one very confused human salvage captain, who just wanted to deliver his cargo and go home. Chaos erupted in the chamber. The Luxon Prince's attendants began shouting in their harmonic language, the notes clashing and discordant with anger. The Mike and Hive Mother's smaller body scattered and regrouped in agitated patterns. Taeyang moved immediately to Daewon's side, all four hands now resting on his weapons. "Explain this," demanded the Photari noble, its energy form crackling with agitation inside its containment field. "How can a human open what we could not?" Daewon raised both hands, trying to calm the situation. "I didn't do anything. I just came back from checking my cargo." "Your hand," Hana said, rushing forward with a scanning device. "You're bleeding." "When did this happen?" "A few minutes ago. I cut it on a— Let me see." She grabbed his wrist before he could finish, holding his bleeding finger under her scanner. The device beeped and hummed, analyzing his blood, his DNA, his genetic code. Her eyes grew wider with each passing second. Jiwoo pushed through the crowd to reach her brother. "Daewon, what's happening?" "I have no idea." Hana looked up from her scanner, her reptilian features showing an expression Daewon couldn't read. Wonder maybe, or fear? The door recognized him. His genetic signature. His blood contains markers that match the vault's security parameters for royal lineage. Silence fell over the chamber. Even the angry muttering stopped. "That's impossible," the Luxon prince said flatly. "Humans are a young species. They have barely left their home system. They cannot possess royal blood older than our own." "I am simply reporting what the scanner shows," Hana replied. Her tail swished back and forth, a sign of deep thought among her kind. The vault's biosensors detected genetic markers in his blood that match its criteria. The door opened. A Delphim scholar pushed forward, its aquatic suit sloshing with movement. Let us test this properly. Perhaps it was coincidence. Perhaps the door was finally ready to open and the timing merely appeared to connect to this human. Fine by me, Day One said. He just wanted this to be over. Test whatever you want. They ran him through every scanner they had. Advanced genetic analyzers, biofrequency detectors, ancestry trackers that could read family lines back hundreds of generations. Jiwoo stood beside him the whole time, her scientific mind clearly racing with questions she was too overwhelmed to voice. The results came back identical every time. Daewon's DNA contained specific genetic sequences that matched the Vault's security protocols. Not similar sequences. Not close enough. Exact matches. His blood carried markers that the ancient door recognized as royal lineage. How is this possible? Jiwoo asked quietly, more to herself than anyone else. We're from Earth, Seoul specifically. Our parents were teachers. We have family records going back centuries. There's nothing royal about us. Hana was pulling up data on her portable terminal, her clawed fingers moving rapidly. I need to access the Vault's internal systems. If we can translate its database, we might find answers. You're going in there? Taeyang gestured at the open door with one hand. That chamber has been sealed for 10,000 years. We have no idea what's inside. Which is exactly why I've spent 20 years trying to open it, Hana replied. She looked at Daewon. Will you come with me? The vault opened for you. It might respond to your presence in other ways. Daewon wanted to refuse. He wanted to return to his ship, leave this station and forget this ever happened. But dozens of eyes were watching him now, some curious, some hostile, all waiting to see what he would do. I'll come, Jiwoo said firmly. If my brother is going, so am I. As will I, Taeyang added. Security protocol. They formed a small group. Hana led the way, her scanning equipment held before her like a shield. Daewon followed, still holding his bleeding finger. Jiwoo stayed close to his side and Taeyang brought up the rear, his compound eyes constantly scanning for threats. The interior of the vault was vast. The golden light came from strips along the walls and ceiling, technology so old it made even the station outside look modern. The chamber stretched into the distance, filled with structures that might have been computers or storage devices or art. It was impossible to tell. In the center stood something that looked organic, a massive growth like a tree made of crystal and metal, with branches that spread across the ceiling and roots that dug into the floor. Symbols flowed across its surface, the same strange writing from the door. What is that? Daewon whispered. I think it's a computer, Jiwoo said, her voice full of awe. A biological computer. The entire structure is one massive processing system. As they approached, the symbols began to glow brighter. The tree computer was responding to something. To someone. To Daewon. It knows you're here, Hana said. Try touching it. Why would I? Please, Hana interrupted. We need to understand what this is. What it means. Daewon stepped forward and placed his palm against the crystalline bark. It felt warm, almost alive. The moment his skin made contact, the entire structure blazed with light. A hologram appeared above them, massive and clear. It showed a figure, humanoid in shape but clearly not human. Taller, with features that seemed both familiar and alien. The figure spoke, and the universal translator in Daewon's earpiece struggled to make sense of the language. The translation matrix is incomplete, Hana said, furiously working on her equipment. This is an extremely old dialect, older than anything in our databases. But Jiwoo had frozen, staring at the hologram with wide eyes. Wait, some of those sounds, those phonemes, they're similar to proto-human linguistic patterns. Proto-human? Taeyang asked. A theoretical ancestor language, Jiwoo explained. Linguists believe that all Earth languages might have evolved from a single source tongue, spoken maybe 50 or 60,000 years ago. But we've never found evidence of it. It's just a theory. Until now, Hana said quietly. Her scanner was showing her something that made her hands tremble. I'm detecting fragments. The computer is translating based on his genetic signature. It's finding linguistic patterns in human DNA and using them to decode the message. The hologram continued speaking. More and more words became clear as the translation matrix improved. Daewon heard fragments. Inheritors, sovereign lineage, scattered children, return home. Then the hologram shifted. It began showing images. A vast empire spread across thousands of stars. Ships that moved between worlds in ways that seemed like magic. Cities that floated in space without stations or support. Beings that looked almost human but not quite, ruling over all of it. The sovereign lineage, Hana breathed. I've seen references to them in the oldest texts. I thought they were myths, stories told by primitive civilizations to explain ruins they didn't understand. The images showed war next. Civil war, brother against sister, entire star systems burning. The empire collapsed not from outside enemies but from its own internal conflicts. The survivors scattered, fleeing to the far edges of the galaxy. One group fled further than the rest. They found a small blue world, primitive and unspoiled. They landed there, damaged beyond repair, unable to call for help. Over generations they lost their technology, then their history, then even their memory of the stars. They became human. No, Day One said. That's not possible. But the hologram continued. It showed Earth young and wild. It showed the survivors trying to hold on to their knowledge, building stone monuments aligned to stars they could no longer reach. It showed them spreading across the planet, their children and grandchildren forgetting more with each generation until they were truly human, truly native to Earth. The last image showed the vault being sealed. A woman who looked almost human, but with those same alien features, placing her hand on the door. The genetic lock engaged. Only her descendants would be able to open it. Descendants she hoped would one day return to space, return to their heritage, return to claim what their ancestors had left behind. The vault is an inheritance, Jiwoo said softly. Left for humans. For us. The hologram faded. The tree computer's light dimmed to a soft glow. In the sudden quiet, Day One could hear his own heartbeat fast and loud. Taeyang spoke first, his voice careful and controlled. If this is true, then humans are not newcomers to space. You are the oldest race, the inheritors of the First Empire. This will change everything, Hana said. She was already moving deeper into the vault, scanning everything she could reach. Every political alliance, every treaty, every understanding we have about galactic history. Day One looked at his bleeding finger. Such a small wound, such a simple accident, and it had opened a door that revealed humanity's greatest secret. We need to tell people, Jiwoo said. Everyone needs to know. But even as she spoke, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Taeyang's communication device crackled to life, voices shouting in multiple languages. Ships approaching, Taeyang said, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Multiple vessels. They're powering weapons. The galaxy had learned about the open vault, and not everyone was happy about what that might mean. The view from the vault chamber had changed dramatically. Through the transparent sections of the station's hull, Day One could see them. Dozens of ships appearing from jump points like predators emerging from darkness. Some he recognized by their design. Others were completely unknown to him, species he had never encountered before. How did they get here so fast? Jiwoo asked. The expedition coordinator was broadcasting the ceremony, Hana said bitterly, for historical documentation. The moment the door opened, the signal went out across the communication networks. Taeyang was speaking rapidly into his communicator, coordinating with the station's security forces. His 4 hands moved independently, one on his weapon, one on his communication device, 2 gesturing as he gave orders. Multiple factions. I'm reading military vessels from the Krell Dominion, the Fotari Collective, independent mercenary groups. They're demanding access to the vault, or demanding it be destroyed. Added another security officer through Taeyang's communicator. Some are calling this a human conspiracy. They claim the door opening was faked. Day One laughed, but there was no humor in it. I wish it was fake. I wish I could go back to this morning when my biggest problem was a worn thruster coupling. We need to learn everything we can, Hana said. She had returned to the tree computer, her scanners working furiously. Before they force us out or destroy this place, we need to understand what the sovereign lineage left behind. Jiwoo joined her immediately, her xenoarchaeology training taking over. Together they worked to interface with the ancient system, trying to download data, translate files, understand the structure of the massive database. There's so much here, Jiwoo said, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. Technical schematics, historical records, cultural archives. This isn't just a vault. It's a complete backup of an entire civilization. Day One wanted to help, but he had no training in archaeology or ancient computers. Instead, he stood with Taeyang near the entrance, watching the ships gather outside. More arrived every minute, The situation was deteriorating quickly. Why does it matter so much? Daewon asked. It's just old history. Taeyang's mandibles clicked, a sound Daewon was learning indicated disagreement. It is never just history. If humans truly descend from the sovereign lineage, then you have a claim to territories and technologies that predate current governments. Treaties and borders would become meaningless. I don't want territories. I just want to fly my ship. What you want may not matter. Taeyang gestured at the gathering fleet with one hand. Those ships contain beings who see you as a threat, or as an opportunity. Some will want to control you, to use your bloodline to access other sealed sites. Others will want to eliminate the threat you represent before it grows. A new alarm sounded. This one was different, more urgent. Through the hull, Daewon saw weapons fire, not at the station yet, but between ships. The fleet was fighting itself, factions turning on each other even before deciding what to do about the vault. We're running out of time, Hana called from deeper in the vault. The station's shields are holding, but they won't last forever against that kind of firepower. What have you found? Daewon asked, moving to join them. Jiwoo looked up from the terminal, her face pale. Everything. Faster than light drives that don't require dark matter. Medical technology that could cure diseases we thought were incurable. Terraforming systems that could make dead worlds bloom in decades instead of centuries. That sounds good, Daewon said. Technology that could help everyone. There's also weapon schematics, Jiwoo continued. Things that could destroy entire star systems. Planet killers. Reality warping devices that could tear holes in space itself. The sovereign lineage didn't just have advanced technology. They had power that could end civilizations. Hana was reading from another terminal, her tail swishing in agitation. I found their historical records. The Civil War, it started because one faction wanted to use these weapons to expand their territory. They thought their power made them invincible. Instead, they nearly destroyed the entire galaxy. The war lasted 300 years, Jiwoo added. By the end, the sovereign lineage had used weapons so terrible that some star systems still haven't recovered. They created dead zones in space where physics doesn't work correctly anymore. Daewon felt cold despite the warm air of the vault. Why would they leave all this behind? If their weapons nearly destroyed everything, why not just destroy the data? They wanted their descendants to learn from their mistakes, Hana said. She pulled up a new hologram showing a woman's face. The same woman from the earlier recording, the one who had sealed the vault. This is Empress Nari, the last ruler of the sovereign lineage. She left a final message, the hologram activated. The woman spoke, and this time the translation came through clearly. The computer had learned enough from Daewon's DNA to properly decode her language. To those who open this vault, Empress Nari said, you carry our blood. You are our children's children, however many generations removed. I leave you this inheritance not as a gift, but as a warning. Her face was sad, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. We believed our power made us gods. We forgot that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. In our pride, we nearly ended all life in this galaxy. The war broke us, scattered us. Some of our people fled to the edges of space, to primitive worlds where they could start again, without technology, without the temptation of power. We hoped they would build something better, something wiser. This vault contains everything we knew, all our achievements and all our failures. I leave it sealed with our bloodline because only our descendants should decide what to do with this knowledge. Will you be wiser than we were? Will you share what you find or hoard it? Will you use this power to help others or to dominate them? The Empress leaned forward, her eyes seeming to stare directly at Daewon across 10,000 years. The choice is yours. Choose well. The hologram faded. For a moment, no one spoke. Outside, more weapons fire lit up the darkness. Inside, the ancient computer hummed quietly, waiting. She made it a test, Jiwoo said softly. The vault wasn't meant to be a treasure chest. It was meant to see if we'd learned anything. If we'd become better than they were. Taeyang's communicator crackled again. Commander Taeyang, we have a situation. 3 Krell battleships are breaking formation. They're targeting the station directly. Taeyang looked at Daewon. They've decided. They're going to destroy the vault before humans can claim it. Can we stop them? Daewon asked. The station's weapons are defensive only. We can hold them off for a time, but not indefinitely. Taeyang's mandibles clicked rapidly. Unless we have something in this vault that could help. Hana shook her head. The weapon systems are here, yes. But activating them would take weeks. We'd need to understand the technology, build the components, integrate them with modern systems. We don't have that kind of time. There's another option, Jiwoo said. She was looking at a different terminal, reading data that scrolled across the screen faster than Daewon could follow. The vault has a communication system, an extremely powerful one. It can broadcast to every known communication network simultaneously. Every ship, every station, every planet with receivers. What good does that do us? Daewon asked. We could tell everyone what we found, all of it. Not just that the vault opened, but what's inside. The technology. The history. The warning. Jiwoo looked at her brother. We could make the choice Empress Nari talked about. We could share everything with everyone. Hana's eyes widened. That would change everything. No faction could claim the technology for themselves if everyone had access to it simultaneously. It would also mean humans gain no advantage, Taeyang pointed out. Your people would lose their inheritance. Would we? Daewon moved to stand beside his sister, looking at the data on the screen. He saw schematics for medical devices, agricultural systems, educational programs. Mixed in with the weapons were thousands of technologies designed to help, to heal, to build. The sovereign lineage fell because they kept everything for themselves, Daewon said. Because they thought their power made them special. If we do the same thing, we'll just repeat their mistake. But this is your heritage, Hana said. Your genetic right. It's also a responsibility. Daewon thought about Empress Nari's tired face, the weight of her failures. She asked if we'd be wiser than they were. I think the wise choice is pretty clear. Outside, the Krell battleships were charging their weapons. Energy built up along their hulls, bright and terrible. They would fire soon. The shields would hold for maybe 10 minutes. Then the station, the vault, and everyone inside would be destroyed. We need to decide now, Taeyang said. Daewon looked at Jiwoo. She nodded. He looked at Hana. She hesitated, then nodded as well. Do it, Daewon said. Broadcast everything. Send it all out to everyone. Jiwoo's hands moved across the terminal, activating systems that hadn't been used in 10,000 years. The tree computer blazed with light. Somewhere deep in the station, ancient transmitters powered up, and the inheritance of the sovereign lineage began streaming out to the galaxy, free for anyone to access. Impossible to stop or control. Daewon watched the ships outside. He wondered if they would still fire. He wondered if he had just saved his people or doomed them. He wondered if he had made the right choice. The transmission went out at the speed of light, carried on quantum channels that reached across the galaxy in moments. On thousands of worlds, billions of beings received the same data simultaneously. The complete archive of the sovereign lineage, 10,000 years of sealed knowledge now available to anyone with a receiver. Daewon watched the response unfold through the station's monitors. The Krell battleships had stopped charging their weapons. They were receiving the transmission like everyone else. He could see the confusion rippling through the fleet, ships holding position as their commanders tried to understand what had just happened. It's working, Jiwoo said. She was monitoring the data flow, making sure the transmission reached every network. The broadcast is being picked up by every major civilization. They're all getting the same information at the same time. Which means no one can claim exclusive access, Hana added. Her voice held a mixture of satisfaction and regret. In one action, you've made the entire vault's contents public knowledge. Taeyang was listening to multiple communication channels at once, his advanced Chiric brain able to process several conversations simultaneously. The Krell fleet is standing down. They're arguing among themselves. Some want to continue the attack, but others are saying there's no point now that the data is public. What about the others? Daewon asked. Mixed reactions. The Futari Collective is already analyzing the technology. The Mycan Confederation is requesting more details on the agricultural systems. The Luxon are... Taeyang paused, his mandibles clicking rapidly. The Luxon are praising you. They're calling this act the mark of true nobility. Daewon laughed despite the tension. I'm pretty sure a real noble would have kept it all for themselves. Which is exactly why they respect what you did, Taeyang replied. The station's communication system activated with a chime. A priority message was coming through. Hana pulled it up on the main display. A face appeared, human and familiar. Admiral Yoon, commander of Earth's Deep Space Fleet. She looked tired and concerned. This is Admiral Yoon to Keeper's Reach Station. We're receiving reports about the vault and the transmission. Can someone please explain what's happening? Daewon stepped in front of the camera. Admiral, this is Captain Daywan of the salvage ship Morning Light. I'm the one who opened the vault. So we heard, Admiral Yoon said dryly. The entire human government is trying to understand how a salvage captain became the most important person in the galaxy. Start from the beginning. Daywan explained everything. The cut finger, the door opening, the revelation about human ancestry. Admiral Yoon listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious with each detail. And you decided to broadcast this information publicly? She asked when he finished. Yes, Admiral. It seemed like the right choice. The right choice, Admiral Yoon repeated. She was quiet for a moment, and Daywan couldn't tell if she was angry or impressed. Captain, do you understand what you've done? You've given away technologies that could have made humanity the dominant force in the galaxy. I've also prevented a war, Daywan replied. If we'd tried to keep it secret, half the galaxy would have been trying to steal it from us. The other half would have been trying to kill us to prevent us from using it. Admiral Yoon's expression softened slightly. That's a fair point. Still, there will be consequences. Earth's government will need to establish protocols for how we handle this information. Other civilizations will expect us to take a leadership role since the technology came from our ancestors. With respect, Admiral, I don't think leadership should be based on whose ancestors built what. It should be based on who can help the most people. Spoken like someone who's never had to manage galactic politics, Admiral Yoon said, but there was approval in her voice. Stand by, Captain. We're sending ships to secure the station and provide support. Try not to start any more historical revelations before we get there. The communication ended. Daywan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. That went better than expected, Jiwoo said. It's not over yet, Taeyang warned. Look, new ships were arriving. Not military vessels this time, but civilian transports, research vessels, media ships. Everyone wanted to see the vault, to verify the transmission, to be part of what would be remembered as one of history's most important moments. And with them came problems. A Krell commander demanded access to the vault to verify that all data had been transmitted. A Futari scientist wanted to study the tree computer's design. Two different media organizations were fighting over broadcast rights to the interior. More and more beings were cramming onto the station, which hadn't been designed to support such a large population. Hana tried to manage the chaos, but she was one person dealing with dozens of factions, each with their own demands and agendas. The situation was becoming overwhelming. We need to establish order, Taeyang said. He had moved to defensive positions near the vault entrance, trying to control who came in and out. If this continues, someone will damage the equipment or start a fight. That's when the first argument turned violent. A Krell researcher shoved a Mycan diplomat who had been blocking access to one of the terminals. The Mycan support mushroom folk swarmed in response. Within seconds, others were joining in, old grudges and new tensions exploding into conflict. Taeyang moved to break up the fight, his size and authority enough to separate most of the combatants. But there were too many people in too small a space. More fights were breaking out. The situation was spiraling out of control. Everyone stop, Taeyang shouted, but his voice was lost in the noise. Jiwoo grabbed his arm. Taeyang, look at this. She pulled up data on her portable terminal. I found something else in the archive. A message from Empress Nari. She recorded it separately, meant to be found only after the main broadcast went out. Play it, Taeyang said. The hologram of Empress Nari appeared again, but this time she looked different, not tired or sad, but hopeful. If you're seeing this message, she said, then you've chosen to share our knowledge rather than hoard it. You've taken the first step toward being wiser than we were, but sharing is only the beginning. The technology you now possess can heal or harm, build or destroy, unite or divide. The choice belongs to everyone now, not just one species or faction. You must learn to work together, to put aside old conflicts and find common ground. Otherwise, you will repeat our mistakes. I have seen what pride and division can do. I watched my people tear themselves apart fighting over power. Do not let this happen to you. Do not let our gift become your curse. The Empress smiled, and for the first time she looked peaceful. You have the tools now. The question is whether you have the wisdom to use them well. I hope you do. I hope you build something beautiful. The hologram faded just as station security arrived in force, finally able to push through the crowds. They began separating the fighting groups, establishing order through sheer numbers and authority. Admiral Yoon's face reappeared on the communication screen. Captain Daywan, Earth's fleet has arrived. We're coordinating with other governments to establish a joint task, forced to manage the situation at Keeper's Reach. The station is being declared a neutral historical site under joint oversight. Joint oversight? Hana asked, hope in her voice. Multiple species working together to study and preserve the vault, Admiral Yoon confirmed. It's not perfect, but it's a start. We're also establishing protocols for how the transmitted technology should be developed and shared. Again, joint efforts. No single species gets exclusive access. Daewon felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. It wasn't over, not by far. But it was better than war. There's one more thing, Admiral Yoon said. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. They want you there, Captain. You and your sister. As representatives of humanity and as the ones who opened the vault. I'm a salvage captain, Daewon protested. I don't know anything about politics. You know about making the right choice when it matters, Admiral Yoon replied. That's more important than political experience. The communication ended again. Daewon looked at Jiwoo, who shrugged. This is definitely not how I expected this job to go, she said. Taeyang approached them, the fighting now under control behind him. The Empress was right. The test wasn't just about opening the vault. It was about what you did afterward. Did we pass? Daewon asked. Too early to tell, Taeyang replied. But you gave everyone a chance to pass together. That's something. Outside, more ships continued to arrive, but now they came not as invaders or thieves, but as partners in understanding a shared inheritance. It wasn't perfect. Tensions remained. Old conflicts didn't vanish overnight. But it was a start. Daewon looked at his bandaged finger, the cut that had changed everything. Such a small wound to carry such weight. He thought about Empress Nari's words, about wisdom and power, about choosing correctly when it mattered most. He hoped they had chosen well. The galaxy was watching now. Time would tell if humanity and their galactic neighbors could build something better than what had come before, or if they would repeat the mistakes of the past. 3 months had passed since the vault opened. 3 months of chaos, negotiations, arguments, and slow, painful progress towards something that might eventually become cooperation. Daewon sat in the observation deck of Keeper's Reach, watching teams of scientists from a dozen different species work together in the vault below. They moved carefully around the tree computer, sharing discoveries, arguing about theories, but ultimately working toward common goals. It wasn't always smooth. Ancient prejudices didn't disappear overnight, but they were trying. You look tired, Jiwoo said, joining him with 2 cups of something that smelled like earth coffee, but probably wasn't. I am tired, Daewon admitted. I didn't sign up to be a diplomat. Neither did I, but here we are. Jiwoo handed him one of the cups. It was coffee somehow. Real earth coffee. Probably shipped at ridiculous expense from home. At least the council meetings are getting shorter. The Galactic Council had indeed called Daewon and Jiwoo to testify. What should have been a single session had stretched into weeks of discussions about heritage, responsibility, and how to manage technologies that could reshape civilizations. Daewon had quickly learned that politicians could argue about anything for any length of time. But progress was being made. The council had established the Heritage Institute, a joint organization tasked with studying and developing technologies from the vault. Every major civilization had representatives. Decisions required consensus, which made everything slow but also meant no single faction could dominate. Admiral Yoon sent a message. Jiwoo continued. Earth's government is officially commending you. There's talk of medals and ceremonies. Daewon groaned. I just want to get back to my ship. About that? Jiwoo pulled up a message on her terminal. The Heritage Institute wants to hire you as a consultant. Something about your unique genetic access to sealed sites. There are other sealed sites? Apparently the sovereign lineage built vaults on dozens of worlds. Most have never been found, but with the archive data we now know where to look. Jiwoo grinned. Congratulations, brother. You're about to become very famous. Before Daewon could respond, Taeyang entered the observation deck. The Chirik warrior had become a constant presence over the past months. Assigned as security for what the council was calling persons of historical significance. Daewon and Jiwoo had tried to convince him they didn't need a bodyguard. Taeyang had politely ignored them. There's someone here to see you, Taeyang said. She says it's important. The visitor was Hana. The Velkhani scientist looked different than she had 3 months ago. Less frantic, more settled, she had been named Director of Research for the Heritage Institute, a position that suited her perfectly. "I wanted to thank you," Hana said without preamble. "Before you leave." "Leave?" Daewon asked. "I assumed you'd want to return to your normal life now that things have stabilized." Hana's tail swished thoughtfully. "You've been very patient with all of this, but I know it's not what you wanted." "It's not," Daewon admitted. "But I'm glad I was here. Glad we could help." "You did more than help." Hana activated a holographic display showing the vault and the work being done inside. 3 months ago, half the galaxy wanted to kill the other half over this discovery. Now we have scientists from enemy species working side by side. It's not perfect, but it's something we've never achieved before. "The Empress's test," Jiwoo said softly. "Yes." Hana pulled up another image, showing Empress Nari's face. "I've been studying her final messages. I think I understand now what she was trying to do." The vault wasn't just about testing humans. It was about testing everyone. Could we move beyond conflict and competition? Could we share rather than hoard? And? Daewon asked. "We're still taking the test," Hana replied. "Every day we choose how to use this knowledge. Every day we decide whether to cooperate or compete. The test never really ends." A chime sounded from Taeyang's communicator. He checked it, then looked at Daewon. "Admiral Yoon is calling. She says it's urgent." They moved to the communication center. Admiral Yoon's face appeared and she looked worried. "Captain Daewon, we have a situation. One of the other vault sites has been found. It's on a world in the borderlands, the region between Krell and Fotari space. Both governments are claiming rights to it." "Let me guess," Daewon said. "They want me to open it. They're demanding it. Both sides are mobilizing fleets. If we don't resolve this quickly, it could escalate into war." Daewon closed his eyes. He had hoped this was over, that he could return to his simple life, flying cargo between stations, arguing with his sister about whose turn it was to cook dinner. But the galaxy had other plans. "If I open that vault and broadcast its contents like we did here, will that prevent the war?" Admiral Yoon hesitated. "Maybe. Or it might give both sides new weapons to fight with. The Borderlands vault might contain different technology than this one. We don't know what you'll find. But not knowing is worse," Jiwoo added. "If we leave it sealed, they'll fight over it anyway. At least if it's open in public, everyone gets equal access." Daewon thought about Empress Nari's words, about wisdom and power, about making choices that mattered. He looked at his sister, at Hana, at Taeyang. All of them had been changed by this experience. All of them had made choices that put the greater good above personal benefit. "I'll go," Daewon said, "on one condition." "Name it," Admiral Yoon said. "I want representatives from both the Krell and Fotari governments there when I open it. And scientists from the Heritage Institute. Whatever we find, we share immediately with everyone. No secrets, no special access, no advantages for anyone." Admiral Yoon smiled. "I'll make the arrangements." "And Captain, thank you. What you're doing matters more than you know." The communication ended. Daewon stood quietly for a moment, processing what he'd just agreed to. "You didn't have to volunteer," Jiwoo said gently. "Yes, I did." Daewon looked at his sister. "Someone has to show that the test can be passed, that we can be better than the sovereign lineage was." "I'm coming with you," Jiwoo said immediately. "As am I," Taeyang added. "And I," Hana said. "This is too important to leave to chance," Daewon laughed. "I came here to deliver cargo. Now I'm leading expeditions to ancient vaults with a diplomatic entourage." "You're leading them because you make the right choices," Taeyang said. "That's worth more than royal blood or ancient heritage." They prepared to leave within the hour. Daewon's ship, the Morning Light, was ready to fly. It felt good to be back in the pilot's seat, even if the mission was far more complicated than any cargo run. As they undocked from Keeper's Reach, Daewon looked back at the station. The vault below was still open, still being studied. The tree computer's light was visible even from space, a beacon of shared knowledge. "Do you think we'll succeed?" Jiwoo asked from the co-pilot's seat. "Opening all these vaults, sharing everything, building this cooperation?" "I don't know," Daewon admitted. But Empress Nari didn't know either when she sealed that vault. She just hoped her descendants would be better than she was, that they'd learn from her mistakes. And have we? Daewon thought about everything that had happened. The choice to share rather than hoard, the decision to work together rather than compete, the slow, difficult progress toward understanding across species lines. "We're trying," he said. "That's more than the sovereign lineage did." The morning light jumped to hyperspace, heading toward the borderlands and another ancient vault. Behind them, Keeper's Reach continued its orbit, a monument to the possibility that civilizations could change, could grow, could choose wisdom over power. Daewon looked at his finger, the cut long since healed. Such a small wound to start such large changes. He wondered what would happen at the next vault. What they would find, what choices they would face. But whatever came, he knew one thing for certain. The test wasn't about royal blood or ancient heritage. It was about what you did when you had power, whether you shared it or kept it, whether you built bridges or walls. The sovereign lineage had failed that test. They had chosen power over wisdom, pride over cooperation, dominance over partnership, and they had nearly destroyed everything. Humanity and their galactic neighbors had a chance to choose differently, to build something better, to prove that ancient mistakes didn't have to be repeated. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks and conflicts. Old prejudices would resurface. New problems would emerge as they developed technologies they barely understood. But they would face those challenges together. Not as separate species competing for advantage, but as a galactic community working toward common goals. That was the real inheritance, not the technology or the knowledge or the ancient power. It was the choice to be better. The decision to learn from the past rather than repeat it. Empress Nari had asked if they would be wiser than her generation. If they would pass the test her people had failed. Time would tell. But as the morning light flew toward the next vault, carrying humans and aliens who had chosen cooperation over conflict, Daewon allowed himself to hope. Maybe they would pass the test after all. Maybe they would build something beautiful. The stars stretched out before them, full of ancient secrets and new possibilities, and somewhere in the darkness other vaults waited to be opened. Other choices waited to be made. The journey was just beginning, and this time they would face it together,